Hi guys, so good to be with you this evening. I wanted to try to do something outdoors here today because I just stepped out here into a location where I could find a little bit of dirt because I wanted to talk to you about something that I have here. I have a package of mustard seed. I'm going to try to pour this in my hand just so you can kind of get a look at this. Let me see if I can get some of this. Oh yeah, there we go. Well, I've got a lot of it there. Okay, I want to try to show this to you. Let me flip this camera here right quick. See if I can show this to you. Okay, can you see that? That is seed, mustard seed. A little bit. It's so tiny. It's so small. It's kind of hard to even believe that seed could do anything. You know, a lot of times, and of course the example to this is the fact that a lot of times things that we plant in our heart, we don't realize how huge the harvest can be from such a small seed. Look at that. It's it's almost so small that it's hard for me to hold on to it. Mustard seed, just so little. Have you ever had a chance to look at that? You know, a lot of times we see the trees that are growing, the plants that we eat, all of these things that come as a result of the seed. But you know, the bottom line is that everything in life operates off the seed plant harvest principle. Everything. I'm not kidding. Not a few things. Everything in your life operates off that seed plant harvest principle. And even this little mustard seed that produces, and we can go and we can look, I mean, you can see the trees around me, that the things that grow, the things that we see is started in a seed form. The vegetables that you eat, I mean, everything, it's just a little tiny seed that goes into the ground and produces life. But again, I want to take this around to the fact that everything in life operates off the seed plant harvest principle. Everything in your life that you are walking in and living in right now operates off the seed plant harvest principle. You planted seed somewhere. You planted seed, you watered that, you invested in it, you nurtured it, and you've seen it grow. And I mean, it's an incredible principle that explains to us why our life is in the shape that it's in right now. And I wanted to just come because obviously, I mean, you can see this even right down here if I can get this camera right. I've got this little bit of dirt here, and you know, just a little bit of soil, you know, and a little bit of seed, a little bit of mustard seed that you would put in the ground, and you think, how is that going to produce such a big thing? Well, I'm just going to tell you something. The ground is your recreated human spirit. I don't know if you realize that or not. The seed is the Word of God, obviously, that will produce, but there's a lot of other things that you plant in your heart that will produce also. I've mentioned this to you before, but I think it really bears repeating. The ground here, it doesn't care whether it's an apple seed, orange, it doesn't care whether it's a tomato, it doesn't care. It doesn't care what it is. When you put it in the ground, it tries to grow it. That's what your heart does. Your heart produces whatever's put in there. That's why the Bible said, is very emphatic. It said, guard your heart with all diligence, because out of the heart flows the forces of life. In other words, the things that make life work, that makes life fruitful, that makes life multiply. The forces of life come from the heart. That's why you've got to guard it. I'm just telling you, things that you watch, attitudes that you have, things that you say, many times you just simply don't realize that when you put something in the heart, it grows. And it grows, and it grows, and then it produces fruit. And what's really unfortunate is the fact that sometimes that fruit comes every season. You know, every year it just keeps producing again and again and again. And that's the beauty and the power of the heart and the principle of the seed. So I wanted to just, like I said, this was this mustard seed. It was so small. I was just amazed that I could hardly hold it in my hand without it just rolling off. And yet that produces something that impacts my life. It produces something that feeds me. It produces something that shelters me. Or it could produce something that destroys me. And that's really unfortunate. You know, the Bible said death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it will eat the fruit thereof. Now, what that means is the tongue, what you're saying, the words, where do they come from? See, the Bible says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So the mouth is producing what the heart is growing. And as your heart is growing something, your mouth becomes the vehicle that releases that power of your heart, those forces of your heart to that mountain or to that situation. That's why it's so important that you guard what you say. However, I'm just going to tell you right now, you're going to say whatever's in your heart. You know, you see people, we try to discipline ourselves that we don't say the wrong thing or whatever, but you're going to say what's in the heart. I'm not as concerned about what you're saying. Let's go a little bit deeper. Where does that come from? Somewhere you got a heart full of something and it's spilling out of your mouth. So out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks and brings to pass or produces what's in the heart. Now that's the principle that goes. And that little bitty tiny seed that you just showed me, I'll show you here again in a second. And I hate to be so fascinated by it, but it just seems incredible to me that such a tiny seed can produce anything. But when you put that thing in the ground and you water it, all of a sudden, somehow, the ground and the seed begin to go to work together, and it begins to spring up. It springs up and it produces life or death. And that's really the truth. So, you know, the thing is, what you need to see is am I walking with life or am I walking with death? That's a very important question. What's producing in my life? Am I walking in disaster? Am I walking in well, that's coming from someplace. Now, I'm not saying that you don't get hit broadside by something that you weren't expecting, but I think that's the exception and not the rule. I think the rule is, and again, you can get broadsided by something that you didn't even see coming. But the thing that is first and foremost is the fact that your heart is producing. Your heart is that engine that produces life or death. It produces strength, or it produces failure. Whatever you put in there, it's going to grow. And the seed, it doesn't matter. The seed, the seed can be many things. The heart is really where the problem is, or the answer is. I mean, the reason you could be blessed so much as you are is because you're producing something out of your heart. But you could also say, you know, the fact is, if something's not going right on a consistent basis, maybe I need to stop and analyze my heart. What is my heart producing? Is it producing life or death? And how's it released? By my words. Well, where do my words come from? My words simply reflect what's in my heart. The words are not empowered by just speaking syllables. That's not what empowers the words to actually accomplish something. It isn't the fact that I said that I said tree or whatever. It's not that. The words are actually vehicles that are carrying something from my spirit that that super generator, that engine, the recreated human spirit that produces life. Whatever seed you plant in that heart, suddenly it explodes with strength. And again, let me go back to say this: everything operates off the seed, plant, harvest principle. And so the heart is actually producing something that is shaping your life. The heart, I don't know, I'm grasping here for even how to describe it. It's like one of those things, my heart's bigger than my mouth, to try to figure how to say this. The heart is this super engine. It's this super creative center. It literally will produce life. It literally can produce death. You were created like that. You're created in the likeness, the image of God. What's in your heart in abundance is what your mouth is going to speak, and is what is going to be produced for you. You talk right now in a negative way because you got a lot of negative junk in your heart. I'm just telling you. You talk in a fearful way because you got a lot of fear in your heart. You talk in a positive way or way of love because you've got that in your heart. Again, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks and brings to pass what's on the inside of there. So I want to just say how important it is for you to guard that heart. Guard what goes in. As a matter of fact, intentionally put in the heart what you want your life to be. You want it to be a life of blessing. You want it to be a life of prosperity. You want it to be a life of hatefulness or revenge. I'll tell you what, you can produce it in spades. You can produce more than you could ever get to and count. That's how powerful the heart is. So I want you just right now to reflect on the condition of your heart, not the condition of your circumstances, not even somebody said, oh, I said a negative word, I said death, and I don't like being around negative people. I don't like, a lot of times that's just habit that people say that, and again, it isn't the fact that I said a syllable and that syllable was somehow a magic abracadabra thing. The fact is, the words that I speak are actually reflections of the engine, that creative engine in my heart. And my heart literally is generating something big, it's taken me someplace. And my words release that and set it in motion. My words release my faith to the mountain. My words are the vehicle that carry me from a place of blessing to another place of blessing, or to a place of curse to another place of curse. But you got to understand, it starts in the heart. It starts in the heart. That's why the Bible encourages you. God told Joshua, he said, at the most important time in Israel's history, that Moses had died, they were about to go into the promised land, and God spoke to Moses and he said, you meditate in the word day and night, and you'll deal wisely in all the affairs of life, and you'll have good success. And so it was very important that he take that time and put that word in his heart. You're going to have to put what God said in your heart. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Fear comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of the world. And that is so powerful. I'm just telling you, that is so powerful. So to you today, what kind of life do you want to live? What do you want your life to produce? Are you tired of running down these roads that don't make any sense and just leave you with a sense of dead end? The place you're going to have to start, somebody said, I'm just going to have to change my words. Well, that's true, but that's not, it goes deeper than that. You're going to have to go further than changing your words. You're going to have to change what you're putting in your heart. So that's that engine, that super engine that super creative machine that you've got. That's your heart. And that's what produces. And so your words are simply a reflection of something that's already there. Your words are going and will only, your words, somebody say, my words are creative. That is true. God's words are creative, but it isn't just creative because it's words. It's creative because it's releasing the power of creativity from the heart. That's where it all starts. What's in your heart? Are you always negative? There's something wrong with that. Are you always fearful? There's something wrong with that. And where are you getting that stuff? Now think about that. Are you always critical of somebody? Do you go, I mean, it's kind of like the lady that came and said, I need counseling, I'm going to get married. She was married 4 times. And the pastor said, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to marry you. And she said, why? And he said, well, there's one common denominator between you and all of the divorces that you had, and that's you. And a lot of times we can reflect and we can imagine everybody else in the world is being wrong, but we don't see that we're the ones that's producing something in our life. So what are you putting into the heart? What are you meditating on? You know, with intention. I'm looking at this mustard seed. Dear Lord, I've got to, with intention, separate out the ground. I've got to, with intention, put that seed in the ground and then cover it up on the with the earth. So you got to put that in there, and then it begins to produce. It begins to produce. Now later, what I'd like to talk to you about is how you get it to produce, to what extent that it produces. Some 30, some 60, some 100. Well, the reason is that what that meant to 100 doesn't mean 100 times more. 100 fold simply means to its fullest potential. That's what that means. But I really don't want to get there right now. I feel like I'm supposed to talk to you about what's in your heart, because I know you want to change some things. I know you do. And sometimes it's a process. I wish I could just whack you on the head with some magic wand and poof, life would be different. But it doesn't work like that. It works on the seed, plant, harvest principle. That is a process, baby. I'm just telling you. Mark chapter 4 said they put that seed in the ground, and first comes out the blade, then the ear, and then the full ear in the corn. That is a process. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time it almost takes sometimes a season for you to really change the things that's in your heart. I mean, we've spent our whole life watching things, listening to music, like 24 hours a day. Constantly we're reading things, or we're listening to somebody's gossip or somebody's whatever, and we wonder why our heart seems so out of control. The heart is going to produce for you. It will produce life, or it will produce death. Now again, let me give you this scripture. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Now, how is that? Again, it's not that the tongue just says magic words. The tongues release what's in the heart. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks and brings to pass what's in there. So it's the heart, guys. It's the heart. It's not just the fact that, well, I must have said the wrong thing. Well, I made a bad confession. Well, you shouldn't do that, but it's deeper than that. You understand? It's much deeper than that. This is a condition of the heart, not just the words that you say. The words are reflecting. The words are containers that carries life. The words are containers that carry death. And you are the one, you are the steward that manages that. And you're the one. You can blame God all you want. You can blame society. Your life is the result of what's in your heart. Well, I don't believe that. Well, I don't. Maybe you could find a podcast that don't believe anything. You know, fact is it must be God's fault, and it was God's intention, and God must have some purpose in you being so miserable. I don't believe that. I believe that everything in your life happens as a result of the seed that's put in the heart, because it's in the heart that produces life or death, and the mouth simply releases it. but you're not going to say something. Well, you won't say anything consistently that's not in the heart. I can try. I can say, okay, I'm not going to say this anymore, but if I can, out of willpower, try to shut her down. But quite frankly, the real solution isn't trying to just discipline my words. The real solution is to change my heart. And I do that by what I put into the heart. I'm telling you, it'll work for you. So let me pull this up one more time. And I want to pour this into my hand here, because I'd like you to see this. I'd like you just to see this seed. If I can keep from turning this phone off. Can you see the seed there in my hand? Isn't that incredible? I mean, just little tiny seed. Let me see if I can get over here where you can see it. This little seed that's in my hand. How can that produce? You know, sometimes we look at little things that we begin to put in our life and we think, well, how could that produce? But it does. The heart doesn't care. The heart's just a machine. It's the most incredible machine, vehicle. My God, I want to say it's the most incredible thing God ever created, because it's so magnificent, it's so creative. But it's within your power to use it or to abuse it. What are you going to do with this creative machine? What are you going to put in your heart today? You're going to put life, you're going to put death. You know, the overflow of the heart's going to spring up. You're going to say something, and boy, I'll tell you, when you do, you release that. It's almost like turning on this faucet that suddenly springs out of a man's belly will flow rivers of living water. You ever hear that phrase? It's almost like a gusher, an artesian well. That once you learn to open the heart, suddenly you've got this situation to where now it's springing up in your life. See, that's the way it ought to be. That's the way it ought to be with blessing. That's the way it ought to be with whatever you're getting from the Lord. I hope this makes sense to you. This is very important to me. This little bitty seed that I'm... You can't even hardly see that, can you? Isn't that incredible? A little bitty seed. Oh, there it goes. But it produces a mighty tree. Wow. And that tree will produce fruit season after season. And that tree will produce more seed. It's incredible. It'll feed you for generations if you'll let it be. All right, that's what I got today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for, this is a little out of the way, and you know, maybe a little later I can do we'll plant some seeds sometime. I'd like to just see how that goes, and we'll put it in the ground, and we'll see what takes place. All right. I don't know. Maybe we can find a watermelon seed, or we can find something that we can put in the ground, and let's just see if it produces. I love you guys, and I want you to prosper. I want you to be in health in all things, but it's only going to be as your soul prospers. There's something deeper, the part of you, the mind, the will, the emotions, all of that springs forth out of who you are, your heart. So I love you guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you for being my friend. And I'm going to be back. Please push like, please push share, and I will deeply appreciate it. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.